Hello, after a few movie Blender edits on the channel, it was time for a real challenge, The Lord of the Rings. Simulation of thousands of orcs, fire, smoke and epic chaos have been a big challenge for me in the past. But Blender keeps getting better, with more and more tools that make our work easier, so scenes like this no longer require the whole team of people, we can do it ourselves from our own room. This is my attempt, for which I spent about 2 days, and in this video you can see how the workflow looked. Since I was short on time, I knew I would need some shortcuts. To achieve that authentic Lord of the Ring feeling, I wanted to include a recognizable character from the trilogy in the scene. I chose Gandalf, and since the 3D people in the foreground weren't convincing, I took the part of the scene from the film and decided to build the 3D scene around it. It is about this scene, and this is part I took. I connected the video plane in the emission shader, and for the projection I used the camera project add-on and cut off the axis using a knife tool. But I also use a transparent shader and a color ramp with which I separated the sky. I talk about this in more detail in my last Batman video, so I recommend you watch it later. For those who want to learn more, my Patreon or YouTube join gives access to around 20 details tutorials, as well as large collection of assets, everything I created over a past few years, all included in a single subscription. I created the terrain using the free landscape add-on, which I additionally shaped using proportional editing. Besides Gandalf, I also needed other recognizable elements from trilogy. The next choice was Minas Tirith, also known as the White City. One of the biggest battles in the film takes place there, so why not in our scene too? Although I love modeling, sculpting isn't my strong part, so I decided to use another shortcut here, Tripo3D AI, which is also the sponsor of this video. Tripo3D is the 3D model generation platform designed to convert text, images or sketches into 3D objects. It is very easy to use. Without any tutorials or reading the documentation, I simply type Minas Tirith from Lord of the Rings, added this reference image, and on the first try I got the result that, considering the complexity of the city, is surprisingly good. There are also a lot of other options and features, but in this case I only use the texturing option, including the PBR option, which I use to add more details to the textures and achieve better interaction with light. If you want to try Tripo for free, use my link in the description to get 500 extra credits for free. And if you want to go even further, use my code to get 60% of your first month of the Pro plan. Now that we have a base, I need more details. For some of my previous projects, I photoscanned some rocks and I found some in my asset browser. I separated only the surfaces, set the origin to the right place, and used the new scatter on surface modifier that comes with Blender 5. The masking option is very useful here, because I want the rocks only on the cliff. After a lot of small stones, I placed a few large by hand. Now I need details that suggest someone actually lives here, such as towers, small houses, columns and similar. This is where hand modeling comes into play, and this is what the process looks like. Since the city has a circular layout, the new circle option in the array modifier is ideal for placing assets. It is very easy to use while offering a lot of control. To get more details in the texture, I added concrete texture for imperfections and ambient occlusion to highlight creases, gaps, holes and intersections. I went back to Tripo3D, uploaded this orc reference and asked it to generate a textured model. This is the result, super detailed even from back, although I didn't provide any reference for that part. Although Tripo has a rigging option, I'm used to work with Mixamo, so I transferred the model there. Before that, I reduced the mesh by about 95% to make the model lighter, considering that we will have thousands of orcs in the scene and the details will not be visible anyway. I downloaded a few animations from Mixamo, and the next step was to scatter the orcs around the scene and make them to run towards the castle. I used geometry nodes here. There are many ways to distribute an army using geometry nodes, but this is my approach. I have terrain, plane and orc. Plane is a geometry nodes holder to which instances on points go. Instances are orcs. The result is that each vertex is actually a point for one orc. Using ArrayCast node, I drop the orcs into the terrain below. If I add more geometry, I get more orcs. If I delete part of the mesh with delete geometry, the orcs disappear. As a selection to delete, I use a noise texture to get randomness. This way I have complete control over the number of orcs, their distribution, and by moving the plane, I can control the direction of movement of the entire army. This is just the base, which I then upgrade with a few additional details, such as scale and offset randomization, which makes the final setup. In addition to the orcs, I also manually added a few Damrod trolls pushing wooden structures, as well as the orcs flags, which I animated using the noise modifier. For the background consisting of the sky and mountains, I use photos found on Unsplash with one additional element. The Gandalf I imported right at the beginning is lit with a bright blue sky. The further we move away from the original lighting, the more Gandalf looks like he doesn't belong in our scene. That's why I combine two emission shaders, one contains the sky texture, while the other is a pure blue color sampled from the original video footage. As a factor that determines which shader will be visible and where, I used an empty object. This way, Gandalf fits little better into the scene. I first inserted the fire, smoke and dust as a video planes along with the orcs into the 3D space, but hundreds of video planes drastically slowed down render and I didn't have enough control over them. So I gave up and decided to add a video elements as an overlay in After Effects. Using the mist pass, I created several depth layers in the 3D space and added multiple layers of smoke, fire and dust. I placed some of them directly onto the castle as well. I further emphasized the tower using ambient occlusion and glossy direction passes along with glow effect. If you look at the scenes from the film, we can see a similar effect. I added a little blur to the whole scene and then a lot more to the background, controlling it with the help of mispass to get volumetric effect, since I didn't use volumetric in Blender so as not to slow down the scene too much. I also added moving clouds and thunders to the sky using video overlays, different blending modes and masks. And that's mostly it. Actually, there is a lot more to it. I plan to make a more detailed video for Patreon where I will walk you through the entire process step by step. If you are interested in learning more, feel free to subscribe to Patreon. You can even as a free user to get notified of future posts. All of my previous step-by-step tutorials are also available on my Patreon, where I cover some of the techniques used in this project. Some of them are even suitable for beginners. Thank you for watching the video to the end and see you in the next one.